On this Saturday night, conflicting accounts surrounding a critical choke point. The state of the Strait of Hormuz threatens an already fragile peace deal between Iran and the United States.
We actually got 16 million barrels of oil out of the Straits of Hormuz yesterday.
As Israel strikes Lebanon with deadly force. The ugly side of the beautiful game. The athletes accused of offside behavior.
And I don't mean on the pitch, I mean, verbally.
As Canada's star midfielder Ismail Kone leaves hospital to a hero's welcome. Taking heat over so-called hydration breaks.
I think it's probably making some more money for FIFA.
The cold water being thrown on the pause in play, bringing in big bucks at the World Cup. Plus, Cuba and capitalism, how the socialist state is softening to private enterprise.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Sarah McDonald.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. The Strait of Hormuz is once again at the center of tensions in the Middle East and internationally tonight. Iran says it has closed the critical shipping route, citing continued fighting in Lebanon. But the United States insists the waterway remains open. The conflicting accounts come as U.S. Vice President JD Vance travels to Switzerland for negotiations with Iranian officials.
The big problem is that you have somebody will shoot and then somebody will respond, and you kind of have a chicken and egg problem where you've just got to stop the scene for long enough to get the ceasefire to keep hold. That's what we're going to try to do. We'll keep on working at it, but things have gotten better.
Candice Cole has our top story on the dueling narratives and the potential for tangible impact on global trade.
We actually got 16 million barrels of oil out of the Straits of Hormuz yesterday. That is a record going back to even before the conflict started.
U.S. Vice President JD Vance appearing on Fox News Saturday, assuring the American public the critical Strait of Hormuz, which a fifth of the world's oil supply passes through, is now open, following the Memorandum of Understanding signed by both the U.S. and Iran Wednesday. That's in direct contrast to what's coming from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. According to a statement, the IRGC says the strait is closed to vessel traffic due to a breach of the ceasefire agreement by the U.S. and Israel. Analysts say the contradictory statements speak to the complexity of diplomacy in the Middle East.
This has been the story of this agreement. The two sides have widely differing interpretations of this agreement. They couldn't even agree on signing this agreement. And so I think this will be heavy lifting.
An immediate and permanent end to military operations, including in Lebanon, is a key condition outlined in the first part of the MOU between the U.S. and Iran. Just hours after a ceasefire was agreed to between Israel and the Iranian-backed militant group Hezbollah, Israel continued with strikes Saturday in southern Lebanon, killing 20 people according to Lebanese civil defense, further compromising any truce between them. The latest round of strikes signaling defiance from Israel's prime minister toward U.S. President Donald Trump.
Israel, of course, has been trying very hard to be the veto player in this. Benjamin Netanyahu both trying that in an attack on Iran and repeated attacks on Lebanon to demonstrate that he will not be bound by the United States.
Vance says the 60 days of talks to finalize the second part of the MOU dealing with Iran's nuclear program could begin in Switzerland as soon as Sunday, which Pakistan's foreign ministry has also confirmed. Candice Cole, Global News, Washington.
In BC, residents of the town of Lytton and the nearby Lytton First Nation are under evacuation alert as a growing wildfire threatens the community. The out-of-control Saw Creek fire is burning just 3 kilometers away. It's already grown to 600 hectares since it was first discovered yesterday. Dozens of homes in the area have already been evacuated, and a more than 100-kilometer stretch of the nearby Highway 1 has been closed. Fire officials believe this blaze is human-caused. They also expect it to grow bigger, fueled only by hot and dry conditions this weekend, as crews continue to fight the flames.
It's something that crews will be monitoring, and while the temperatures today are supposed to be a couple degrees cooler, like I said, there is still that potential for increased fire activity, just where we start to see it heat up a little bit. There's that direct sunlight, or we see a bit more predominant wind in the area.
This fire has erupted just days out from the 5th anniversary of that devastating wildfire that wiped out Lytton, killing 2 people and displacing more than 1,000 others during BC's record-breaking heat dome of 2021. Police in Ontario now confirm a 6th person has died in the wake of a tragic collision last week northwest of Guelph. The driver of an SUV involved died in hospital several days after a crash with a van that had 10 people inside. A funeral was held today for the 5 children in that van who died. 5 others inside the van were injured, including the children's mother, who remains in hospital with serious injuries. To the World Cup now, as jubilant fans, including Canadians, continue to show unwavering support for their teams. But while the tournament aims to promote unity and peace, abuse towards players is not uncommon, and it's something FIFA has been trying to stamp out. Here's Mackenzie Gray on the ugly side of the beautiful game.
The FIFA World Cup 2026 will be the first major tournament to use them.
It's the latest soccer rule change to try and stomp out discrimination.
Any player in the tournament seen covering their mouth in a confrontational situation with an opponent may be given a red card by the referee.
A situation that played out for the first time last night, with Paraguayan midfielder Miguel Almiron sent off after talking with his hand over his mouth to a Turkish opponent. No one accused Almiron of making a racist or homophobic remark, but just the act, now a straight red card. The new rule, dubbed the Vinicius Jr. Law, after the Brazil and Real Madrid star was racially abused by an opponent in a Champions League match earlier this year. Racism that has also been directed at Canadian players for years, according to the former men's interim national team coach.
There was a number of occasions where I would have said it was offside. And I don't mean on the pitch, I mean, verbally, but there was not much you could do.
The most recent example, the 2024 Copa America, where after a hard tackle on Argentinian star Lionel Messi, Canadian defender Moise Bombito was inundated with an estimated 2,000 racist and hateful comments. Monkey and banana emojis, just the tip of the iceberg. Racism and death threats have extended to nearly all the black players on the men's national team, including star midfielder Ismail Kone, who was able to visit his teammates for the first time Saturday after a gruesome challenge in the Canada-Qatar game that broke his leg. While losing a top player is a blow to Canada's chances, the injury could already help further gel a close-knit team, as shown when Canada beat Qatar 6-0.
The players again rallied and acted as professionals because injury is part of it, and they'll use this as a rallying call, but they'll have to regain their composure and prepare for Switzerland.
The Swiss game set for Wednesday at BC Place, where a draw or a win will give Canada first place in the group and allow them to stay in Vancouver for their first ever men's World Cup knockout match. Mackenzie Gray, Global News, Ottawa.
And Canada's history-making win on Thursday has broken more records. It is now the most watched group stage match in Canadian history. An average audience of 5.2 million people across the country tuned in to watch as Canada shut out Qatar 6-0. Toronto is a sea of black, red, and yellow, and orange, white, and green today as Germany and the Ivory Coast face off in the host city's 3rd World Cup match. Lexy Benedict is there.
7-1 Germany!
The sound of Team Germany supporters taking over the streets of Toronto ahead of their match against Ivory Coast. Thousands of German fans marching from here, Amsterdam Brewhouse, all the way to Toronto Stadium. And marches like this have become very common here when there are match days in the city, with many fans from around the world using their energy to show just how excited they are. Fans not just showing support for their team, but embracing the atmosphere here in Toronto.
Energy come from here to Canada. Energy from Germany to Canada. I like this land.
Toronto police say roughly 5,000 fans took part in the march to the stadium, making it the largest fan march we've seen in the city so far. We're officially at the halfway point of our hosting duties, with Saturday's match between Germany and Ivory Coast the 3rd of 6 here in Toronto. With each match, the crowds keep growing, and when you ask fans what the energy is like down here...
How are you feeling? Good, really good. energy is vibrant, dude. It's exhilarating.
Excellent.
Like, it's an emotional experience once in a lifetime.
And it's not just Germany supporters bringing the energy, but Ivory Coast fans are making their presence felt too, some even joining the march.
Ivory Coast!
All of that excitement is music to the ears of Canada's sport minister and official FIFA Sherpa, Adam Van Coverden.
The marches have been awesome. They've been really well done, the way they march right down into the CNE.
So far, the City of Toronto says planning for the tournament appears to be paying off, with vehicle traffic near the stadium down 25%, TTC ridership up 30%, and foot traffic up 130%. And whether fans arrived by train, by bike, or as part of a march like this, for many, being part of moments like these is exactly what they came here for. Lexy Benedict, Global News.
Coming up, Cuba's economic overhaul, the crisis forcing the longtime socialist state to open up to capitalist reform. A terrifying scene in the Dominican Republic after a ferocious fire ravaged this luxury beach resort on Friday. At least one woman, a 46-year-old Italian tourist, was killed. More than 1,700 guests were forced out of the hotel. The cause of the blaze is still being investigated, but officials say it was only exacerbated by flammable material on structures throughout the resort, combined with windy conditions. In Ukraine today, several people have been killed in Russian strikes. Early this morning, bombs struck an apartment building in the city of Kharkiv. At least one person was killed and 9 others injured, including a child. Russian strikes on the southeastern city of Zaporizhia killed at least 4 people and wounded 6 others. Ukraine's Air Force says it shot down all but 7 of 99 Russian drones launched overnight. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has been stripped of Poland's highest state honor. The decision follows Zelensky naming a Ukrainian military unit after a paramilitary group accused of massacring Poles during the Second World War. Zelensky was given the award in 2023 for services to security, resilience, and the defense of human rights. There is cautious optimism in Cuba this weekend as lawmakers promise the biggest overhaul of the country's economy since Fidel Castro's revolution. Facing mounting economic pressure, the Communist Party is promising a series of reforms that, if implemented, would open the country to more private enterprise than at any point in nearly 7 decades. Mike Armstrong explains.
On the streets of the Cuban capital, even after years of shortages, blackouts, and economic decline, many people say life is still getting harder. There is hope new reforms announced this week can make a difference.
Estamos en un momento en que lo que está no está funcionando.
This woman says right now things aren't working. Even capitalist changes that might make things better, she says, are welcome. The Cuban legislature approved sweeping changes to the country's economy Thursday in a unanimous vote. There are 176 reforms that, if implemented, would mean a major shift towards a market economy. They would allow private banks, private real estate development, and the sale of some state-owned property, while expanding opportunities for private and foreign investment. Cuba's president says the goal is to correct mistakes and shortcomings in how the economy works, but insists the reforms are also a response to what he calls an external siege.
Fundamentally in Cuba, it is a system that hasn't worked.
The U.S. calls its Cuba strategy maximum pressure. It's trying to force the country to open its economy and make political reforms. For months, it's choked off Cuba's oil supply, sanctioned key industries, and threatened companies that continue to do business there. The result, tourism has collapsed, hotel chains have pulled out, and airlines have suspended flights. Protests against power failures have grown as an economy already in crisis moves to the edge of collapsing.
The country is starving, and it's got no energy, it's got no oil, it's got no money, it's got nothing.
Now, can the reforms revive the economy and ease tensions with Washington? There have been direct talks between the two countries about what the U.S. wants. But there is still no timeline as to when the reforms could come into effect. And the meeting where they were adopted still concluded with the revolutionary slogan, socialism or death. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Ottawa.
Just ahead, state of emergency in South America. The blockades bringing parts of Bolivia to a standstill. In Bolivia, bulldozers and police in riot gear have been brought in to clear roadblocks across the country. The South American nation's president declaring a state of emergency over protests that have paralyzed the economy for the past 50 days and left at least 17 people dead. The protesters, many aligned with the former leftist leader, are upset at austerity measures, including the cancellation of fuel subsidies. Further north in Colombia, tens of millions of people will head to the polls on Sunday to elect a new president. And their choice could not be more stark. A left-wing former communist backed by the outgoing president, or an outspoken far-right candidate endorsed by the U.S. president. The vote is happening as violence and cocaine production surges in parts of the country, and following the United States capture of former President Nicolas Maduro in neighbouring Venezuela. Redmon Shannond reports.
Nothing unites Colombians like World Cup success. And unity is much needed right now, with the most distinct of election choices in Sunday's presidential election splitting the country in two. Far-right candidate Abelardo de la Espriella is a wealthy criminal lawyer known for defending people linked to organised crime and paramilitary groups. But with violence from armed groups having surged in recent years, the man who calls himself the Tiger has promised to crack down on drug trafficking and to neutralise members of armed groups. Los grupos armados. At a recent campaign event, the man who is openly endorsed by US President Donald Trump appeared behind bulletproof glass, citing threats against him. Principal problema en Colombia. Last year, another potential candidate was shot and killed at a rally.
Regreso al pasado, parapolítico, narcotraficante.
On the other side of the ticket is Iván Cepeda, an academic and former communist who is backed by the eccentric populist left-wing president Gustavo Petro. Cepeda is a champion of the government's Total Peace initiative to negotiate with armed groups.
After 4 years of attempting these sort of conversations, we have no result. None of these groups have demobilized so far.
A likely reason the polls appear to slightly favour de la Espriella, even if the conservative political novice is a mostly unknown quantity.
The way he will handle the opposition, the way he will handle media and their independence, the way he will handle, for instance, civil society, this is something of concern.
President Petro and de la Espriella alleged some voting irregularities after the first round. Regardless of how Sunday's deciding vote goes, it's what happens after that that worries Colombians the most. Redmon Shannond, Global News, London.
We'd like a hot dog for every country where visa's accepted.
Next, backlash over so-called hydration breaks that skeptics say are all about the cash. We'll explain just after this break. More than a week into the World Cup, and one of the biggest water cooler conversations is quite literally about water. For the first time, FIFA has mandated what it calls hydration breaks, calling them necessary for the athletes to cope with heat and humidity. But as Turia Isri reports, critics say those hydration breaks are really just glorified commercial breaks.
Sure, June in North America is hot and getting hotter every year. That's the official reason FIFA has added hydration breaks at the World Cup. But some fans and players are throwing cold water on that.
I think it's probably making some more money for FIFA. Hydration break turned into a commercial break.
Here you go.
Thank you. Please get back in. Please get back in.
And plenty of companies are cashing in.
We'd like a hot dog for every country where visa's accepted.
Okay.
Australia, Canada.
Soccer's governing body insists it's about player safety and a necessary addition in the face of climate change.
Most sports are getting faster, stronger, and so when you have hot conditions during a soccer game, what it means is that it pushes a player's physical and mental abilities to the limit.
But a good chunk of the tournament is being played in air-conditioned, domed stadiums like BC Place. And even in outdoor venues, some matches have fallen short of scorching, like Ghana versus Panama, where it was 19 degrees in Toronto with a light breeze.
If this decision was really made more to protect the health and the performance of the players, or if it was made to protect marketing and other issues.
FIFA says the universal hydration breaks are necessary for consistency. But the organization is already under fire for exorbitant ticket prices, and now extra ads cutting into game time. Another issue for soccer lovers, it's disrupting the World Cup's traditional non-stop flow, turning a game of two halves into 4 unofficial quarters.
As a fan and someone who played soccer in the past, it breaks up the flow of the game. It can change momentum, gives teams the ability to change their tactics.
And they're on the attack, down the wing, plenty of space.
More pauses giving fans, players, and coaches reason to pause themselves. Taria Isri, Global News, Montreal.
And that is Global National for this Saturday night. I'm Sarah McDonald. Your Canada is going global this week. We're showing you pictures of Canadian pride sent in from all over the world. Tonight, we are showcasing Monaco, Kitakami, Japan, and near Cape Town, South Africa. Please keep sending your pictures of Canadian pride from wherever you are in the world to Global National at globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching. Hope you'll join us once again tomorrow. Have a great night.